Right. So today we're really diving deep into cybersecurity.
Okay.
Specifically,
Right.
this EU's NIS2 directive.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listening are probably familiar with it, at least on like the surface level. He's
Right.
been getting a lot of press lately. Um,
Sure.
and, we like to think about things with analogies on the show.
Right.
So picture your data.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bustling city, right?
Okay.
And NIS2 is like this huge upgrade to the city's defenses.
Okay. I like that.
So we're talking like stronger walls, sharper eyes on those watchtowers,
Yeah.
all of that.
I'm with you.
So basically
Yeah.
next level protection here.
For sure. For sure.
So we have got a really, really great breakdown in front of us
Excellent.
of all this NIS2 stuff.
Awesome.
So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah. Let's dive in. So I think a good place to start is maybe just like a really concise definition.
What is this?
What is it? What's it all about?
Yeah.
So the NIS2 directive, it's all about beefing up cybersecurity across the EU.
Okay.
Making sure that all those essential services that we rely on every day are, ready to combat cyber attacks.
Okay, so when we say essential services, what are we talking? Like, give me some examples.
Yeah, so we're talking about things like energy, right? Keeping the lights on,
Mm-hmm.
transportation,
Okay.
healthcare, making sure hospitals can operate.
Got it.
Even those social media platforms that we all spend way too much time on.
Essential.
Essentially, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's about making those vital services more resilient.
Okay.
Harder to disrupt.
Gotcha. So this is NIS2.
Yes.
Meaning there was a
Exactly. There's a previous version.
NIS one?
Yeah.
What changed? Who's feeling the heat now that wasn't before?
Yeah. So this new version, it expands the scope significantly.
Okay.
NIS1, it mainly focused on what we call critical infrastructure providers.
Mm-hmm.
Think like power plants, water treatment facilities, things like that.
Makes sense.
But NIS2, it casts a much wider net now.
Okay.
It covers a whole bunch more sectors that are super important for the EU's economy and its society as a whole.
Okay.
So in addition to those digital platforms that we were just talking about,
Right.
we're also talking about banking,
Uh-huh.
food production,
Wow. Okay.
even the postal service.
The Postal Service.
Yeah, they handle a lot of sensitive information too.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so way more companies are involved this time around.
Wow. Okay, so that actually brings up a really great question from one of our listeners today.
Okay.
They're wondering specifically about startups and how they kind of fit into all of this, because it does sound like, a very large amount of companies and industries are impacted.
Yeah.
So is this a big guys only regulation, or do startups need to be paying attention as well?
That's a great question, and it's a key one.
Yeah.
Because it's not really a one-size-fits-all situation, you see.
Okay.
NIS2. It's really focused on what it deems as essential or important companies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's determined based on a couple of factors, primarily their size and the potential impact if their operations were to be disrupted.
Okay.
So while directive doesn't outright exempt all startups, a startup that's providing, let's say, a very critical service,
Mm-hmm.
and they're exceeding a certain size in terms of, either their number of employees or their revenue,
Mm-hmm.
then they need to be prepared to comply.
Gotcha. So it really comes down to impact then.
Exactly. Impact is the name of the game here.
Okay. And speaking of impact,
Yeah.
the clock is ticking on getting compliant with this, right?
That's right.
It's October 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any major deadlines coming up that we need to be aware of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The deadline for EU countries to actually incorporate NIS2 into their national laws has already passed,
Okay.
which means that organizations, they should already be working on implementing all those necessary security measures that are outlined in the directive.
Okay, so companies should be like knee deep in implementation at this point.
Yeah, they should be well on their way, ideally.
So I guess like the $1,000,000 question here is, how prepared are they?
Right.
Are we talking like a mad dash to the finish line, or are most companies kind of ahead of the game?
Well, that's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the data paints a bit of a worrying picture, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, studies are suggesting that a significant percentage of EU companies,
Okay.
particularly small and medium enterprises, those SMEs,
Yeah.
they're actually lagging behind.
Interesting.
Yeah, in their NIS2 preparations. And I mean, it's understandable to a certain extent.
Yeah.
The directive is complex.
Mm-hmm.
It requires resources to implement effectively. And, for SMEs who might have more limited resources than larger corporations,
Right.
this can be a real struggle.
Makes sense. It makes you wonder what kind of support is available for those smaller businesses.
Yeah, that's a great point. And actually, some member states are stepping up.
Okay.
They're providing more guidance and even financial assistance programs to help SMEs meet these requirements.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction. But even with that support, navigating these regulations, it can feel overwhelming, especially for smaller businesses that might not have dedicated cybersecurity expertise in-house.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle, especially with like the added pressure of very real potential cyber attacks.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't a serious concern.
Exactly. The threat is real, and the stakes are getting higher all the time.
Right.
I mean, in 2023 alone, global cybercrime, it cost businesses trillions of dollars.
Trillions.
Trillions with a T. So while these regulations, they might seem daunting, they're really about building resilience against a very real and growing threat.
It's a necessary headache then.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so speaking of potentially confusing things,
Okay.
our listener also flagged two acronyms.
All right.
CRA and NIS2.
Yes.
Two sides of the same coin or something different.
They're definitely related, but they are distinct.
Okay.
Think of it this way. NIS2 is kind of like setting that overarching cybersecurity foundation across all those different sectors that we talked about.
Right.
The CRA, on the other hand, the Cyber Resilience Act, that one zooms in on a very specific area,
Okay.
the security of products that have digital elements.
So NIS2 sets the stage, and then CRA kind of gets down to the nitty-gritty for specific types of products.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about CRA, then what's the main objective there?
Yeah, so the Cyber Resilience Act, it aims to make sure that any product with digital elements,
Okay.
think things like laptops, smartphones, connected cars, even those internet-connected toys that kids love these days,
Oh, yeah.
they need to be designed with security in mind,
Okay.
right from the get-go.
Interesting.
So that means manufacturers, they have to meet specific cybersecurity requirements throughout their entire product life cycle.
Okay.
We're talking everything from the design and development phase to the manufacturing process and even post-market updates and support.
Wait, so you're telling me that, like, my niece's talking teddy bear is getting caught up in international cybersecurity regulations?
It sounds crazy, right?
It's kind of hilarious.
It is, but it really highlights how much the world has changed.
It does.
A few years ago, we weren't even considering the cybersecurity of children's toys, but now any device that connects to the internet, even a teddy bear, it can be a potential entry point for cybercriminals.
That's wild.
It is.
And kind of terrifying.
Yeah, it's a whole new world of interconnected risks.
It really is.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good place to kind of like bring it all back around,
Sure.
We've learned a lot about
A
NIS2,
lot of information.
about CRA,
Yeah.
about the whole cybersecurity landscape, really.
Mhm.
What does all this mean for people listening?
That's the question.
What's the big takeaway here?
Right.
Given everything that we've talked about, what's one question that this raises for you
Yeah.
about your own industry, about your own work? What's changed? What needs to change? What opportunities might be out there because of this new landscape?
Absolutely.
It's a lot to consider.
It is.
But that's the beauty of a good deep dive, right?
That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.